What's good, everyone, and welcome back to the Water Boys channel. As we are diving into week 12, we are past Thanksgiving. That means this playoff push will get really tight, and we're going to be covering the AFC again and going through the matchups and the standings. But before we dive into any of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, because we will keep releasing NFL content throughout the season, going into the playoffs, and as well when draft season comes. But without further ado, let's jump right in. So still sitting at your number 1 seed will be the Tennessee Titans, even after their big unfortunate loss against the Houston Texans, which frankly none of us saw coming whatsoever. And now they got another big matchup against the New England Patriots. And is the Titans doing what we all kind of figured they would do after they lost Henry? We thought it would hit in afterwards. Probably when they played the Rams, we thought that was going to be a loss. And then they just started knocking off these good teams still. And we're like, okay, maybe Tennessee is a legit contender. But then you see Tannehill throw 4 interceptions last week. A.J. Brown's hurt. You got no Julio Jones, no Derrick Henry. These injuries are starting to pile up for this team, which is very unfortunate. And Tennessee's been hit with the injury bug really big. They had A.J. Brown, which I think he's going to be out this week as well. Julio's already on IR. We already know what's going on with Derrick Henry. This offense is mostly manufactured, yes, around Derrick Henry. So it's going to be crazy to see how they're going to evolve. I didn't have him sticking at the number 1 seed this long, so it's crazy to see him still there. Again, with Tannehill throwing 4 picks, if it's going to strictly depend on him and him being forced, we've seen how he looked in Miami when that's happened. I don't think he's a complete control leader when he doesn't have his weapons around him, and it can get ugly fast. So they're going to have to implement a new game plan, try to get more weapons, more schemes, things like that, because their defense isn't even the best as well. Their defense is still giving up tons of points, definitely to lights of like a Texans. It wasn't a high-scoring game, but at the same time, Texans don't usually score over 20, and the fact that they did and then they held Tennessee is really crazy. And this AFC season, actually NFL season, has been extremely wild, but we know how wide open the AFC is, so they're still in it. But with the big matchup against New England, which I'm probably going to side with New England at this point since it's in New England, which could be this last week we see Tennessee in the number 1 seed, it's going to start shaking some things up, and we're going to see how this plays out towards the end of the year. Your number 2 seeded Baltimore Ravens has another big matchup this week against the Cleveland Browns. Both teams fighting for the division. Both teams fighting for a playoff spot. It should be very interesting. Now, Baltimore did escape barely with the win against the Chicago Bears, but also they weren't in full force as well. They were running with their backup. I think Lamar will be back. But again, I don't know. Lamar, not like play-wise, but just off the field wise, I think it could be more of a concern because he's sick every week, and if it's gonna start affecting his availability for the Ravens on the field, that could hurt down the stretch. Definitely in a December and January run where it's definitely flu season, and that's when a lot of people start getting sick. And he's been sick throughout this whole year, so I don't know what's going on with him. They say it's not COVID related, it's nothing serious, but at the same time, if he's on the injury report every week for it, and then he missed a game, it's got to be some kind of concern for it if the Ravens won't have him in the future or miss a couple games here on out, because the Ravens already are dealing with a lot of injury bugs, and last thing you need is your star quarterback losing it in December when you got to win most of your playoff games. Now, I still have them as a playoff team. As you guys do know, I have them at predicted 12-5, but that could shake up too if Lamar's not there. But I'm saying he's there. He's not injured, so he should be fine. But they do have a tough hauling because they still got the likes of the Browns, Packers, and Rams too. And my thing with this team has been the injuries towards the earlier season. They've been able to overcome it. They're a very well-coached team. So I do expect them to make a playoff push. Just when does it start catching up with them? They barely escaped against the Bears. Now, what happens when it's the lights of a higher competitive team? Are they still going to escape with those wins? We'll just have to see when it comes down the line towards these teams. Now, if I would have made this video before Thanksgiving, I would be talking about your new number 3 seed. But since the Thanksgiving games are over, Buffalo Bills did reclaim that seeding until the games are played on Sunday, and if the Patriots beat the Titans. But right now, the Bills showed out against the Saints, and it was what I expected, honestly. I honestly was hoping it was closer just because I took the points for the Saints, but as well, not surprising because the Saints are very limited offensively, and then Bills offensively took over what the Saints couldn't, do on defense. But Saints are very limited. I knew they couldn't keep up with the Bills as the Bills got rolling, and they did. Do I think they're back to who they need to be? No, because it's a short week against a team that's already hurt and missing a lot of pieces. I think it's a get-right game. They do have a long week before their next opponent as well. We'll have to see how they recoup and match because they got the likes of still the Patriots and the Bucks. So they could still lose a couple games. They're already not in my predicted standings where I had them, I think, only losing 3 games, and now they're already at the 4-game mark, right? Oh, no, they're at the 4-game mark at 7-4, so they're not going to get to that 14-3 mark, and their offense isn't quite clicking like we thought they would throughout the year, and Josh Allen is turning the ball over way too frequently, which we weren't expecting as well. So that's got to get all righted before we think they're the Buffalo Bills of old. This, kind of how we talked about the Chiefs. Are they that high-powered offense, and then that defense isn't shutting people down as well? And just click, like, their defense suffered a huge blow and a big win. Now there's no Tre'Davious White, so now you're very slim with your cornerbacks because he's out for the year with a torn ACL. So Bills now got to deal with the injury on the defensive side, and they got to find a way to get right on offense, and we'll just see how it all mends out towards the end of the year. I still think they'll make the playoff run, but it's going to be crazy if New England takes that division because now it's up in the air for the AFC East. At your number 4 seed, the Chiefs will still lead the AFC West for now. It just depends on how the Chargers take on their matchup against the Broncos. So it's their bye week. I won't go too much into it. They had a big victory against the Cowboys, which I had them taking an L in. So right now they're still on pace. I had them actually going 11-6, and right now they're 7-4. And I had them losing the Packers and the Cowboys, as you guys know. So we'll see how that wraps up. But I'll keep that short and sweet since it's their bye, and I don't want to get too much involved into that. Now, your new number 5 seed for the moment until Sunday takes place will be the New England Patriots, sitting at 7-4. Got a huge matchup against the Tennessee Titans, as I mentioned earlier. And I think I'm going to roll with New England as well. I don't know. Of course, Kansas City is my favorite team, but if I had to go with the number 2 or exciting team right now, who I feel confident about, and it would be New England. Like, I love how they're being coached right now. Their defense is playing amazing football, and that offense is doing what they're used to doing when Tom Brady was there, which is, go downfield, maneuver drives, run the football, find the passes that Mac Jones can, make, and then the defense helps clutch down and wins the game for you. And that's how New England excels. Can they keep it going? It's going to be really interesting. I think they can because in the beginning of the season, they were looking for that stride, and now that they're finally hitting it, and New England's definitely a December football team with that defense and that run game, they're going to be a hard team to beat, and they still do got the likes of the Bills. It's going to be very interesting as well, and then they got this huge matchup against the Tennessee Titans, which I have the Titans winning, and I had the Bills winning, but I kind of want to, retract on those games because Patriots have also been turning a corner as well, and these are going to be the big matchups where they're really going to prove themselves and prove they're back to that playoff and even Super Bowl caliber team that Bill Belichick knows and loves so much. And that'd be a quick turnaround, and Bill Belichick can get this team to a playoff. Like, he's got to be in the contention for Coach of the Year because quick flip from not making the playoffs after 1 year without Brady to now you got Mac Jones leading the team as a rookie. Great defense. Yeah, he's got to be in contention for that Coach of the Year award. At number 6, we got the Cincinnati Bengals back in a wild card spot. They had a huge win over the Las Vegas Raiders, who didn't even expect it, honestly. I actually thought the Raiders would take that game in Vegas. Kind of not a get-right game, but, it kind of is. Like, you were on a losing streak, and then you struggle, and then it's get-right against the Bengals. They're also in playoff contention. You both have the same record, so prove you can still beat a playoff team, and they fell off completely, and Bengals surprised me a lot because they put up a lot of points against the Raiders. They showed out in their stadium, but I'm also at this point is where I still really don't believe in them because they can do that against a good team or a mediocre team. It's just how you view the Raiders, but then when you get to the lights of like a Jaguars or Jets, it's like you lose to them. So it's like prove yourself, and you got to find a way to win these games all the time. The games you're supposed to win, you got to win them. And Raiders is a game they were supposed to win, and they did. So it could be a turning point, but to me, I just still feel this team is very, very young. And then they got a very hard schedule towards the end of the year when they play the Browns, Chargers, Ravens, and Chiefs. Those could all easily be 4 more losses. That's why I had them predicted at 9-8 as well. But we'll see how they pan out because they can either stumble or they can skyrocket. Bengals, you just never know what you're going to get. So it's going to be very interesting, but I got to see a lot more before I keep them permanently in the playoffs at this point. Your number 7 seed and your last playoff spot for the AFC right now belongs to the LA Chargers, and they can take a hold on the AFC West with a tiebreaker over the Chiefs if they can beat the Denver Broncos this weekend, which it might be a more interesting game than a lot of people imagine because the AFC West rivalries are usually very, very tight. Now, you guys know I don't really believe in Denver that much, but one thing Denver does do well is they run the ball well and they play really good defense. And the thing the Chargers don't do good at all is stopping the run. Now, they need to stop Melvin Gordon, who is back playing against his old team, and then you got Javonte Williams. If Denver gets any type of run game going, it could be a long game for the Chargers, but at that as well, I don't know. Chargers are just a better team, so I'm going to give them the edge here, but I can also see Broncos winning a very close defensive battle game, like a 24-21, and then we'll see how it ends up with that, because if the Broncos win that, now we got to start looking at them back in the playoff race, because right now they're 6-5. I think that either 5-5 or 6-5, and it takes them to 7-5, so they're still very alive as well when we're all counting them completely out. They might have a say at the end of the day if they're going to make the wild card. Definitely beating the Chargers, they would own a tiebreaker over them, and that would take the Chargers out as well. And it's just going to get very interesting, definitely with the Raiders being the Cowboys. The AFC West is so clutch, it's so crunched together. Everyone's like one game from each other. It's going to be interesting to see how that division wraps up as well. Now, it's your in the bubble teams, and your first one at the 8th spot will be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just lost to the unfortunate LA Chargers that I just mentioned recently. And Pittsburgh is a team I just don't truly believe in. It's funny, even in that LA game, if you're watching, it's they were getting blown out very early. Their defense is missing a lot of players, so I give it. I thought it'd be a defensive battle, and then you're missing T.J. Watt, Joe Hayden, and Mika Fitzpatrick, so I get how Chargers were able to score points, but man, if your defense isn't there and then your offense can't show up at all, it's going to be a struggle. But then again, their offense did show up at the end, which was quite surprising. But I don't know, who does that say more about? Does it say more about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense or the Chargers defense? I'm kind of leaning towards the Chargers defense because Pittsburgh hasn't been able to do that all this year. And they'll have to keep going and doing it week in and week out for me to believe in that offense. But at that, they still took an L. And they're still stumbling right now at a record of a 5-4-1 with that tie against the Lions. And that tiebreaker can be huge because it could hold against the Browns or the Bengals, because the Bengals would have one more loss than them, and that would give the slight edge to the Steelers. So that tie could be big towards that last 7 seed spot. But as well, the Steelers play the Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs, and Browns. They got a tough sledding as well. And I don't know if their offense can keep up with the other offenses. Now, the defenses can slow those offenses down. But, man, if the offense can do what they did against the Chargers, then I might start believing them more. But like I said, the Chargers can't stop the run, and right now they couldn't even stop the pass against the old Big Ben. So I don't know who to believe on that side, but right now I'm not really sold on Pittsburgh whatsoever, so I'm going to keep them outside of the playoffs and in the bubble for the time being. And next on the bubble team at the number 9 spot will be the Indianapolis Colts. And it's funny because I mentioned the Chiefs and then I mentioned the Patriots as my 2 favorite teams to be watching the AFC, but now I would have to slightly go a third with the Colts because they've been very entertaining, and they're a team I kind of want to see skyrocket into the playoffs. And I wouldn't want to see them play the Chiefs, but they're going to be a scary team if they keep doing what they're doing because they're very fun to watch. They're turning a corner real quickly as well, and they're sitting at 6-5. They got a huge matchup against the Bucks, but they had a huge matchup against Buffalo last week, and Jonathan Taylor went off completely with 5 touchdowns. Almost 200 yards. I think he's in the running for MVP because that's wide open. No quarterback wants to take that award right now. So let's give it to a running back, and he's well deserving of it. If he could stay healthy throughout the end of November and December when it's the running season of the year, Colts are going to be scary. They play good defense as well. And it's funny, I had them losing to the Bills, and then I have them losing to the Bucks. But I kind of want to reevaluate that as well because the Bucks aren't the same team we're used to seeing as well. And if Carson Wentz can get going, and then if Jonathan Taylor can go in that game, Bucks don't have a really great defense at all. And their offense is inconsistent too with the Bucks. So I could see the Colts winning it, and I'm going to have to think because I don't know. We'll see Saturday when me and Tim pick the games, but it's going to be very interesting. Right now, I think I'm giving a slight edge to the Colts because I don't know. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, and I think they can make the playoffs. And now sliding into your number 10 spot after a huge victory over the Dallas Cowboys, your Las Vegas Raiders are finally back in the bubble sitting at 6-5. Had a great game against the Cowboys, and I think if anything, when we get to the NFC standings, I'm going to have to start questioning Dallas a lot because I don't know what's going on. I know they're missing a lot of pieces as well. But this was definitely a game the Raiders needed. Their offense has been looking way too out of sync. We're finally starting to see the rhythm back. The only concerning thing was the Darren Waller injury. I don't know how long he's out, if he's going to be out too long. It looks like he'll be back, but they lost him early, but then they were able to use Hunter Renfrow, which was kind of crazy. Like, Hunter Renfrow is a really good receiver, but, man, he looked like a top 3 receiver against the Cowboys secondary, which something I wasn't expecting because one of the strong points for the Cowboys is their secondary, and the fact that they let one guy run wild all over him was kind of surprising to me. It was, like, really surprising because I benched Renfrow because I seen how they played the likes of like a KC, like even the Bucks and all that. Like they do really well, and now they struggled. And I don't know. It's gonna be something to watch out for the Cowboys. As for the Raiders, I do have them predicted at 11-6. They don't have that many too tough games. Of course, they got to go against KC again and then Cleveland. My thing with the Raiders is this the turning stone? Is this where we're kind of overcoming everything and becoming the team we were in the beginning of the season? We'll have to see another week or two and see if they can keep winning games to see if they're that team in the beginning. Right now, I'm 50-50 with it because, yeah, it was a huge showing against the Cowboys, and it's what they needed. But I don't know if that's like a for sure thing that's the Raiders team we're going to get through the end of December. And with that, that will wrap up your AFC predictions for the standings and diving into the NFL Week 12 matchups for the AFC as well. If you like this video, please be sure to give me that big thumbs up as well. And please do subscribe to the channel because I will have the NFC video coming up shortly, and we'll dive into all the games related to the NFL Week 12. And with that, thank you guys for checking in and take care.